Welcome to Chat with the Lawyer. I'm your host, Walla Blagay, and today we are honored to have Honorable Cerete Lee, and she is the Register of Wills for Prince George's County. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And you're going to talk, and actually this is quite a little bit of a different interview because usually we interview just lawyers, as you know, the name of the show, Chat with the Lawyer. But now we're interviewing a non-lawyer. And you ask why? Well, she's going to give us very important information on wills and estates. And I know that is very important to the Prince George's County community. And even though she's not a lawyer, she has very, very important information. So listen in. So tell us a little bit about your position.
Well, my position is an elected position.
Okay.
It's an election that happens every 4 years. And my office oversees estates. We administer estates. You hear the probate, we administer the probate process.
Now tell us what is probate?
We oversee administration of estates, which means when the deceased has assets, someone has to oversee what happens to that property if it's in the decedent's name alone.
Okay.
So when it's in the decedent's name alone, then it becomes a part of the probate process. Someone comes to my office and they're appointed the personal representative, or you hear the term executor. Same thing, and that starts the probate process.
Now, let me stop really quick and ask you, how do you appoint the actual executor?
Someone comes to the office, say a relative passed away, they have assets in their name alone, someone needs to handle that process. So when the person comes in, they're appointed as the personal representative. But when they come in, they need to bring to us the will, if there is a will, the funeral bill, and anything in the decedent's name alone. For example, if there's a car or property, anything in the decedent's name alone, we need to know about it. So that starts the probate process. Once they are appointed, they receive the letter of administration, which then gives them the authority to oversee whatever needs to be done for the deceased.
Okay, and just to clarify the process, now when the daughter of, let's just say, someone's mother dies. So the daughter comes into your office. Now the daughter has a right to be appointed, right?
She does. We will ask, where's the dad? Is there a spouse?
I see.
Okay, are there other siblings? And when that person comes in, they will then let us know if there are other siblings, if there's a spouse, and then we need to know these names of the persons. And they are considered a list of interested persons. And then one of them might contest it, so we really need to know, okay, who are your siblings, is there a spouse, and it goes from there. And also, before you can be appointed in Maryland, you might need to be bonded, and if you are a felon, or if you have bad credit, you cannot be appointed. Then it could go to the next available relative, if a relative wants to. Sometimes relatives don't want to be bothered, they don't have the time, or they're in another state. And then it could be someone else is appointed, an attorney could be appointed to oversee the estate.
Now, the actual appointment process, does someone have to go to the court, file something, or do they just the whole process can run through your office?
The whole process starts in my office. Once they come in with the will and anything decedent's name alone, and there's proof, we need the driver's license, we need to know proof. The funeral bill, death certificate. We need to see the death certificate and the funeral bill and the will if there is a will.
What if there's no will?
Then we still start that process. And so many persons do not have wills. So either way, they still need, no matter what, the death certificate, funeral bill, and anything in the decedent's name alone.
I see.
Anything for beneficiary is not a part of the probate process.
Okay.
So with no named beneficiary.
Okay. And when you all go through the process, if the person has no will, how do you determine who should be appointed?
Well, as I said earlier, the person that comes in, that then alerts us, this person has passed away, I am the daughter of the deceased. And then we ask those questions. Is there a spouse? Are there kids? Are there other siblings?
What if there's a spouse?
Then we need to know if the spouse doesn't want to be appointed, and then it goes down the line.
I see. So it goes down the line. Can you really explain what down the line? Is it the spouse first, the children second? And so how is what is the
spouse and the children could be one the same as far as being appointed.
Okay.
Yes. And sometimes, depending on the age or the health of the spouse, they don't want to or they can't. So then it goes to one of the children as far as being appointed.
Okay. And if the daughter and the spouse are fighting over who should be appointed, what happens then?
Then it goes, as we call judicial, then it goes before the orphan court judges in a hearing to determine who should be appointed.
Okay, now you mentioned orphan court. Now tell us what is an orphan court?
Most people think it deals with orphans,
children.
but it doesn't. The orphan court judges hear cases that are being contested. As you asked earlier, suppose the mother and daughter are fighting, or other siblings are fighting, or they can't decide what to do with the property. Then it goes judicial before one of the orphan court judges. And we have 3 orphan court judges in Prince George's County, and each one sits on a bench a certain day.
Okay, interesting. Oh. So then after the process of determining who would be appointed, and that person is appointed, you mentioned bonding. Now, explain exactly what is bonding?
That is securing the assets. Say, for example, this person has $500,000 in assets. We want that person that's being appointed to be bonded, make sure there are no issues, they don't take off with the monies or whatever. And if the person has bad credit and can't be bonded, then it goes to the next available relative that's in line. And if no one qualifies, then it goes judicial before the orphan court judges to determine who should be appointed, or an attorney could be appointed.
Interesting. And also, when they go through that process, do you run a background check on each? Okay, you all have
and
your own.
We have a way of checking background, and also when they're going to be bonded, if the credit is bad, they can't be bonded. And if you're a felon, you cannot serve as a personal representative of an estate.
Interesting. That's
so we have ways of checking that as well. And when you come into my office, we ask questions: are you a felon? And you sign the letter saying you're not perjuring. So.
Okay, I see. And then when they start to pay the bills of the estate, how do you assist in that process?
When you come to my office and you're appointed, we give you a checklist of things that we need to know, and then you have to do an accounting. There's a process. Say, for example, there are bills or there's mortgage. We need accounting of how you've spent the money. You need to show us. You need to tell us.
And how often do you check that?
When you first come in initially, then we give you 6 months to give us an accounting, and then it goes down the line until it's completed, until everything's paid off, if you've given us all the answers we need, and then if your relatives are not fighting you over something.
Right.
Which they do.
Of course, that's family, right?
Yes, yes. We actually have panic buttons in my office. Yes, that's true. That's family. Not strangers, family.
So do you really have panic buttons?
We really do.
Wow.
Yes, we really do.
Wow.
Throughout the office, yes. And family members now, not strangers. Yes. You'd be surprised.
So, going back to that process, now everything is accounted for. What if there's a monthly mortgage that has to be paid, and it has to be paid for maybe 20 more years? Do you do checkups every year or two, or it just sort of goes?
No, the average estate is anywhere from 1 month to a year or two. It depends on the situation. Each case is different. Each estate is totally different. We have an estate might be open today, closed today. Then we have one could be 6 months or years. There's actually an estate there that was there when I came into office. And I came into office in 2006. So you'd be surprised. Each estate is totally different.
Okay, but the point is to close out, once the person has passed, to close out and sell off everything.
Sometimes they don't want to sell off. Sometimes a family member might want to buy that house.
I see.
So it just depends on the family and the situation.
And what if someone is very, very wealthy and they kind of are able to handle their own, they have their own lawyer, they handle their own process, do they still have to go through the Register of Wills office?
Then the attorney would represent the family, and yes, they would come to the office as well and handle that process, yes.
Okay.
And some people just don't want to be bothered, so they just hire an attorney to do that for them.
I see.
Yes.
I see. Okay, so the point is that an attorney can represent you in the entire process.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what if now some people argue, well, what do I need to know this for? I only own one house.
And I'm so glad you said that, because when I meet people in the community, they say, oh, I don't need to do a will because I don't have anything. And I always stop them and say, yes, you do. Those clothes you have on, that car you're riding in, that is something that you own. And you pass away, someone has to take care of that.
Interesting.
Yes.
Now go ahead.
And we also handle guardianship of minors and property of minors.
Wow.
Yes.
So if if the parent dies and the child is left there, how do you handle that process?
Say, for example, the parent dies and there's maybe an insurance policy left for that child. So someone has to oversee the monies until the child is 18.
Okay.
So we have to get an accounting of that and appoint someone to be the guardian. And I always recommend it doesn't have to be a relative to be the guardian of that child. It's someone that will have the financial stability, the emotional stability, and do they have the time and energy to care for that child or children?
That's interesting. And you all go through that in your office as opposed to letting an attorney handle that?
We do that, and it depends on the situation. It could go to the circuit court. It depends on the situation. Well, say, for example, a grandparent has custody of the grandchild, and they want to get the child in school. It's like late August, and the child is relocated, say, from another state, and the grandparent is trying to get the child in school, so they might come in, and we assist with those situations as well.
Interesting. And then also, tell us about the perils of not having a will.
You would be surprised when someone doesn't have a will and there are lots of assets and they haven't thought about anything, then that's when, as I said earlier, someone has to come in and be appointed a personal representative to take care of these assets. And then sometimes, believe it or not, in a will or without a will, they might want to give it to an organization, but it's not written. So the best thing I can suggest, if you want someone to have something, you must make it legal, you must put it in writing, and that way your wishes are carried out for the most part. We like to think so. And we want to oversee that process for the decedent. And also, sometimes people will say, well, I have a life insurance policy, which is fine. If you have a beneficiary, that's not a part of the probate process. Anything with no named beneficiary is a part of the probate process.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
Well, this is great information. We're actually going to take a quick break. So as you all know, that this is so good that we want to come back, right? So we'll be right back after the messages.
Hi, I'm Tinsel Corey from the Twilight Saga. Want to play? If you had a tough day, try playing music. It's a great way to wind down, relieve stress, and bring a smile back to your face. Not to mention, it's a lot of fun. Learn how to get started at wannaplaymusic.com.
Hey! Woo! Baby Eddie, meet
Baby Maya.
Oh, it's for us.
Your baby's getting text messages?
Yeah, I signed us up for Text for Baby. We get free text messages every week. Look.
A car seat for the hospital. That's a great reminder. How do we sign up?
Text BABY to 511411 and you'll get free health and safety tips every week.
Okay, we're signed up. Look!
That's one smart baby.
Just like her mom.
Welcome back to Chat with the Lawyer. I'm your host, Walla Blagay, and we're going to continue our interesting conversation with Honorable Cerete Lee, Register of Wills from Prince George's County, talking about the perils of not having a will. Very important information. So we were discussing before some of the perils of not having a will. So can you continue?
Someone asked me, well, suppose there are lots of bills, lots of debt. And if everything's in the deceased name only, depending on the value of the assets, those assets might need to be liquidated to pay off the debts. But each estate is totally different. It's case by case. It's not carved in stone as, you pay this bill, you pay that bill. Depends on the situation and what assets you have.
Interesting. And without a will, does it make that process harder, or is it sort of the same depending?
It's not harder. It makes it easier if it's in writing, if there's a will.
I see. And does your office draft wills?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
We cannot do the wills for the individual.
Okay, so who do you recommend?
We highly recommend you see an attorney or someone with a legal background.
Okay.
Highly recommend that. Do not encourage do-it-yourself kits or going online. There's so many different places where you could go. When I go out into the community, I pass out a brochure that gives the number for the Prince George's Bar Association or Legal Aid, or if you're a member of AARP or Prepaid Legal, these are some organizations you might want to check. I always suggest if you're going to look in the yellow pages, get an attorney that specializes in estates.
And why not using sort of a form that you find online and signing your name under that?
That's an interesting question. I'm sure you've seen the commercial LegalZoom.com.
Yes.
Well, I've heard, I have not pulled it myself, I heard once you pull that, that's for the state of California. So you need to be very careful what you see on TV or advertised in the paper. Make sure it's for you. So the best thing you can do for your family, you have a legacy, is do it the right way, get someone legal to do it for you.
Okay. And if you get a will that has a lot of problems, as in maybe has state of California law throughout the will instead of the state of Maryland, what problems does that cause for you and your staff?
That would probably cause lots of problems depending on the verbiage. And so usually in something like that, we would have to let it go judicial before the orphan court judge to determine if they would even accept that.
So basically you would even have to get a lawyer if you were to not have a will anyway. And if you were to draft that type of will, you would end up having to get a lawyer anyway.
It would be best, or have someone with legal background to overlook it for you.
I see. Okay. Now, why did you become the Register of Wills?
From personal experience, I had an aunt who lived in New York. She passed away without a will, but her daughter, who predeceased her, had a will, and they wanted me to inherit all the assets. I was my aunt's emergency contact. Long story short, when she passed away, because she did not have her own will, her grandson, her legal next of kin, and his mother, the ex-daughter-in-law, inherited everything. So from that experience, I really learned the importance of having a will. If you want someone to have something, you must make it legal. You must put it in writing, because I didn't get anything she wanted me to have. And at the time, I knew nothing about wills myself, and certainly nothing about New York law. So that was a learning experience for me. And that's why when I became the registrar, I wanted to reach out to the community to let citizens know how important it is to have a will and what to expect when you come to my office to open up an estate.
Interesting. And can they keep their wills with you? Or?
Yes, they can. We have a vault in my office that's fireproof and waterproof, and you can keep it there for only $5, which is a one-time fee, unless you update it, which is called the codicil. So where else can you invest $5 for a good reason?
Great
right?
deal, right?
Yes, yes.
Great
yes.
deal.
And that way it's very good, because in my experience in the office, so many times a family member will come in and say, well, mom had a safe deposit box. They can't find the key. They go to the bank, they have to pay the bank to break open the lock, but even before that, that family member has to contact my office, and one of my staff members has to go to the bank with that family to secure the will if the will is in the safe deposit box. So something as small as a safe deposit box key is very important. If you have one, let the family know where it is, and you know what else is interesting? Let them know which bank. Because they passed away and said, oh, mom has a bank account at Bank of America, but maybe mom had the safe deposit box downtown in D.C. where she worked across the street at M&T. Little things we don't think about, but very important.
So how would, if the mother didn't know, how would you find the safe deposit box if it wasn't at Bank of America?
Well, I usually tell people one way of finding out what the deceased had is the mail.
There's
Check
always
the mail.
a statement.
There's always a statement. It might be a quarterly statement, 6-month statement, once a year statement, but the mail is a good indication of what the person has. Because someone passes away today, the family might say, well, I know they had Visa credit card, but they didn't know about this bill or that bill, or they passed away, and then there's a statement from, they had stocks, so they had CDs they didn't tell anyone about. So those are the things that come up sometimes even after the fact. And also one thing I want to point out, sometimes loved ones come in my office the same day they lose a loved one. Sometimes it could be weeks or years, depends on the financial situation. So I highly recommend when I'm in a community, have an account or life insurance policy that takes care of your funeral service. Because if the deceased had a bank account and the family member needs to go back to the funeral home to take care of that funeral arrangement, they need to get to the bank, and the bank is not going to do anything if your name is not on the account. So that's why sometimes they have to come to my office the very same day.
Now, let's just say that someone had someone died suddenly and they just want to start paying the bills. Could they do that without sort of going through your office?
I do not recommend that.
And why not?
Because they may not be responsible for paying that bill.
I see.
You know, if their name is not on the bill, and sometimes creditors will harass you, but we always say, if your name is not on that bill, don't pay that bill. At least not right away until you see what's going on, or to see if there's enough assets to pay it. It depends on the situation, but no, I would not recommend that. Don't do that right away.
Okay. What about tax issues? How do you all handle that?
Always recommend you talk to a finance person or an accountant, a CPA, to make sure there are no tax issues. And there very well could be. And that's a good question you ask. Say, for example, I lost my dad at the age of 89. He was receiving, of course, Social Security check. He died the last of April, so that check that was directly deposited in May had to be returned. So I highly recommend, if there's a question about taxes or a check you received, when in doubt, check with the finance person or call us depending on the situation.
Okay, and do you all have financial advisors on staff?
No. No.
Okay.
No.
So how big is your office?
I have a staff of 32.
Okay.
And as I said earlier, we see an average of 35 families per day in my office. And it just depends on the situation.
Wow, 35. And is it all sort of someone passing away?
It's maybe 9 out of 10 persons are coming because it involves an estate. Some are coming for the first time, some are coming for a follow-up appointment, and then some are doing an accounting on my auditing side of the office. And then maybe one person out of the 10 persons coming might be coming to file their will, which is a great thing.
And so you can file your will once you're alive and well, once you draft it,
Yes.
file it immediately.
Yes. You can. It's not mandatory. In the state of Maryland, it's not mandatory, but I highly recommend it.
Okay.
That way, it's there for safekeeping. You can tell your family, if I pass away, when I pass away, my will is filed in the registrar's office. That way, they're not trying to find which bank is in the safe deposit box. We're not ransacking your house trying to find it.
Now, what other services do you offer in your office?
I mentioned we have the public computers where someone can come in to look at an estate that has been opened, or if they want to start the family tree, you can do that. And of course, we handle the estate process.
So tell us a little bit more about the family tree.
We have a brochure that we give that gives the background and how you start with your mother, father, grandparents, great-grandparents, and it goes down the line. And that's something that we pass out. And actually, you can go online on the website to take a look at that. But it's a good start. Some people have the time and energy, and they just want to come down and look at the computer and start going from estate, you know, it varies.
So that means that I would come there and I would search my grandparents' name and find when they passed away, and then kind of continue to find
Start
people
there,
that
you
was
know.
related.
Yeah, some people come in, they know the date that the grandma passed away, and sort of start there, looking at an estate that has been opened maybe years ago, and it starts, you look at the cousins, and it goes from there.
Now, do they have access to the files?
Oh, no.
I see.
No.
Okay. So when you do your search,
say, for example, you come in and you look at the public computer, and then there's a state that has been opened, you do have access to looking at that, but no, you just don't go in our files. If there's something you need, we have people to assist you.
Okay. So it's not one of
You
those.
just can't come in and go in my files. No, you
Okay.
can't do that. No. We have persons there to assist you if you need to look at an estate. And you can also make copies for a fee.
Okay. And what's the fee?
50 cents per sheet.
I see. But in order for you to get access to the files, you would have to show that you're a next of kin?
No, you don't need to show your next of kin if it's an estate that's been open or closed. You can come in, get their estate number, and then one of my persons can assist from there. We can call up and we can print the pages for you.
Okay, and the print pages don't have any personal information or like
No,
anything?
it depends on, you know, of course, we don't get Social Security numbers anymore.
I see.
That's no longer, that's stopped.
Okay.
But if it's an estate that has been open and closed, then it's public knowledge. Unless it's a guardianship case and those files are closed. They're not for public view.
Okay. So it's only the open ones that you could really do the searching.
And then open and closed ones.
But limited information in the closed ones? From the closed
No,
ones?
it's not limited. What's limited is you're being able to look at a guardianship case. You cannot look at those.
Okay, because it involves minors? Okay. And how many, do you often have those guardianship issues here?
Issues or cases?
Cases.
We average maybe 50 or 60 cases per year.
Okay, of guardianship issues.
And it just depends, unfortunately the kids lose a parent, or the parents just don't have the means of caring for the child. It's so many different scenarios.
Okay. But you would only get involved if someone passes away, right?
Not always, but usually it's the case. Someone passes away and someone needs to get guardianship right away. As I said earlier, if the child needs to get in school, if you're not the guardian, you can't get medical help for the child.
Right.
So that's very important. So that's why it's an urgent matter.
Now, can people get guardianship through your office?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And if it's something where they don't qualify my office, it might have to go to the orphan court judge to determine if this person should be the guardian, or they might pass it on to the circuit court. It depends on the situation.
Okay. In a simple case, how would a guardian be chosen?
Simple case, someone comes in and said, my grandchild is with me. She just moved here from Atlanta. I need to get her enrolled in school. I need to also get medical insurance for her. And then we get all the information, birth certificate. If a parent is living, we need the parent to sign off giving consent for that person to be the guardian. And then that starts the process.
Okay. And now, why would that person come to the Register of Wills to do that?
Some people know about it and some people don't. So depending on who they're talking to in the community, or if they call someone and say, well, you can go to the Register of Wills office or you can go through circuit court.
Right.
But when I'm in a community, I let it be known that we also handle guardianship of property, minors and property of minors.
That's interesting, because I think many people just go straight to the court for guardianship. They file for guardianship right in the court. So instead of, for a faster process, they could just come to your office.
But there again, it depends on the situation of the family.
And do you have to be a, what if you lived in New York but you moved to Maryland?
We need to show proof of that.
You have to have a Maryland address to come to your office. Right. Well, this is great information. We might have to have you come back because it's so good. Now, I know that you're the first African-American Register of Wills for Prince George's County?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Well, thank you for coming on this show. We are definitely going to have you come back.
Thank you.
And tell everyone in the camera how to contact your office.
My office is located in the courthouse in Upper Marlboro on Main Street. The main number for the office is 301-952-3250. And there's a website, www.maryland.registers.gov.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show. If you want to know more about our videos, you can check out our website at www.chatwiththelawyer.tv. Thank you for watching, and we hope that you come back.
My husband thinks social drinking relaxes him, but he's still ready to fight. Are you troubled by someone's drinking? You might be surprised at what you could learn in an Al-Anon family group meeting from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or visit alanonfamilygroups.org.
Protect your unborn baby from CMV, a crippling birth defect virus. CMV disables more children each year than Down syndrome or fetal alcohol syndrome. Learn more at cmvfoundation.org.
When my boyfriend drinks, I'm the target. I found relief at Al-Anon family groups. Are you troubled by someone's drinking? You might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon family group meeting from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or visit alanonfamilygroups.org.